So it's about 3 after. I say we go ahead and get started today with conversational radio. We're going to hopefully get these slides going for you. For those of you just joining us, Julianne Welby, one of our presenters today, got stuck at an A train, one of the subway lines here in New York City, and is making her way to the station. We did have her slides up just a second ago, and I was hoping they would stay. Somebody was running them remotely from her station. Hopefully that we'll be able to get them to pop that back up in just a moment. But otherwise, let me just go ahead and introduce Richard Hake. Richard is known to public radio fans. He is the voice of a longtime. He's a longtime newscaster and reporter at WNYC in New York. His live and produced radio feature segments range from hard-breaking news to cultural and artistic sound portraits heard on National Public Radio's news magazines, the Morning Edition, Weekend Edition, All Things Considered, and To the Takeaway. He's a graduate of Fordham University. Richard also anchored Logo Television's The Advocate news magazine and provided stories for WFUV right here, WBGO, NPR, the BBC, WOR, and the Associated Press. Richard's feature and documentary work has earned him awards from the Associated Press Broadcasters Association, the Society of Professional Journalists, the New York Press Club, the Society of the Silurians. Is that how I'm pronouncing that correctly?
I know that I was pronouncing that.
And the National Federation of Community Broadcasters. So, Rich, thanks for being here. Again, hopefully Julianne Welby, our other presenter, who's a news editor at WNYC and also my former colleague here at WFUV, will be joining us shortly. She had gotten delayed on a subway train. And I know someone's listening for her, so please.
Hey, George, can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Hello, Julianne.
Wow.
The amazing cab system in New York got Julianne Welby to from Harlem to downtown Manhattan. So, Julianne, I'm glad you're here. Let me formally present you now. Julianne Welby is a news editor at WNYC, where she works with reporters, producers, and hosts to bring fresh, vital, and conversational news to New York City listeners. She is also an adjunct professor at the Columbia University's Graduate School of Journalism, and she is a trainer with public radio news directors. So, Julianne, I'm so glad that you were able to make it from Harlem to downtown Manhattan for us.
I think we've got our conversational radio story to tell later today, mechanical difficulties on the A train. I'm hoping you can all see my slideshow now. Do you see a title slide now with a picture of me?
We are not seeing that yet.
Okay. Let me activate, I think, on the GoToWebinar panel.
Well, let me just, while you guys are figuring that out, let me just, hi, I'm Richard Hake, and add to the whole New York City streetscape here, because I work the morning shift, so I'm right now sitting in my apartment in Manhattan with the window open because it's such a beautiful day. So I want to apologize in advance if there's a passing siren or construction sound. And there's Julianne and her lovely baby. So we're just consider it ambi.
All right, Julianne, you do have your screen. Cool. Your screen is all set to go, so you can go ahead and start. And thank you to both of you. Go right ahead.
Thanks, everyone, for your patience. This is one of my favorite subjects. I've been in radio for just over 20 years now, much of it with George and Richard, and we've kind of worked toward trying to have a more conversational sound on the radio for all these years. So that's what we're here to talk about today, and hopefully give you some nuts and bolts you can go away with. Some of the things you might see in this presentation, you might say, no, not so much. I don't want to do that. But at the end, let's chat it out. Let's take your questions and let's get your opinions on how to be more conversational on the radio. So to start, let's talk about who we're talking to. I like to think of the person on the other end of the microphone as basically a baby who's easily bored, easily distracted, and with a short attention span. You might say in public radio, oh, no, they pay even better attention. But we're all human, and we all have lots of things to do in the morning.
They're
so
all
it's our
brushing
job
their teeth.
to I forgot the toothbrush.
Yeah, they're all brushing
we all
their
have
teeth.
too much to do in the morning. So it's our job to write even better than we normally would instinctually to keep people's attention, just by nature of what audio is. I believe even this person who contributes to public radio several times a year and has driveway moments needs to have better writing from all of us. So our goal, you may have heard over and over again, is to talk to one person. talk being the key word, not read your writing. I think playwrights and screenwriters, the ones who are successful, they do this. They know how to write dialogue. And in news, we find it difficult to do that because we have often more serious or stodgy topics. But I still believe we should aim for that high bar and be talking to people just as if we were on stage or on TV. We're never taking the listener out of the moment. That's our goal. We'll always be grammatically correct. We never want to dumb down the writing or the talking, but I do believe there's plenty of room to be more casual and accessible without dumbing down the writing. This is when we've done our job, when our listener feels like this, like you're talking just to them, whispering in their ear that secret story that only they can hear on the car on the way to work. So here at WNYC, Richard hosts our local version of The Takeaway. And by nature, this show is designed to be a conversation, be part of the American conversation. So not only do they invite listeners to chime in and they have their comments throughout the show, the writing in the show, when you can even notice it, is exceptionally good. And at times it really blurs the line between talk news radio that's spontaneous and written news segments. And I've noticed that the people who are on this program are the strongest writers in the station. So we've already met Richard Hake. Richard, do you want to say anything about The Takeaway and what you strive to do each early morning on the air?
Sure. Yeah, I've been at WNYC for quite some time now, for a number of years, and I've hosted, Morning Edition, our local Morning Edition, All Things Considered, and done reporting, and so I've kind of done the gamut at the station. And when we launched The Takeaway 3 years ago, and as Julianne mentioned, it was, the goal of it was to be America's conversation. So what we started to do was to kind of change the sound of it, change the public radio sound. And the goal, or the challenge at that time, was just to start making our newscasts and making our reporters' spots and things like that fit into this. And it was a little bit of a challenge at the time, but now I think we're really getting into the flow and how to do that. And not only are we doing that, but we're starting to get the concept of that into our other shows as well. So sometimes the newscasts that I even write for The Takeaway are now working their way into Morning Edition. And we have different little techniques that we're using to make those sound even more conversational. And then with that even said, we're noticing that NPR, National Public Radio, is doing the same thing. If you listen to their hourly newscasts, you can hear a lot more live reporter debriefs, a lot more, active writing. Everything is happening right now. It's more of a conversation. So I think that was the goal of The Takeaway, and that's what we're striving for.
Good point, Richard. We're noticing a difference in NPR as well, and we're trying to do that locally in our newsroom at WNYC. Every day it's a struggle. It's not easy to do easy writing, basically. Why? Why is so much of our writing stuck in print style? Every night, part of my job is to kind of iron out the print in all of our copy and present it to the morning team as conversationally as possible. Obviously, we are used to writing for the eye. Many of us have come through college where we've written 20 pages, 20-page papers, where by nature they're not for speaking, they're for seeing. We're given print-style information in all the press conferences we go to, and even our newsmakers are used to speaking in print. We have actually a news item in New York City, an environmental program called PLANYC, and it's a goofy print-style program that we have to talk about a lot, and we call it Plan YC. It was made for print and for documents, but we need to find a way to speak it on the radio, and it's very awkward. And now we have the challenge of reporters within one story, not only getting that conversational copy onto the air, but doing the web version as well, often at the same time. So I think that blurs the line between what is print style and what's conversational. When I'm going through our copy and trying to make it more conversational, I think of it as advocacy. I want Richard to sound as good as he can, and I want it to be easy and effortless for him to read. I think when he has a good morning, a good stack of material, he sounds more confident on the air. He sounds more free. He may be able to, ad-lib a little bit more. I think there's a difference in the tone when he's presented with a package of material that's readily conversational. And this is what you get, a listener who is that much more attentive. So let's get into some of the usual print suspects in copy, and I'm about to follow here with a bunch of no-nos that I see, the type of things, the little details I'm trying to edit out of copy every day to make a sound more conversational. And toward the end, I'll have some yeses. And then, of course, we want to hear what you have to say as well. So you should know these. We all learn this, if not in journalism school, broadcast journalism classes, and when we're on the job. Subject at the end of the sentence is a big no-no. Dependent clauses are all over our copy. They just come so naturally to us. We want so badly to say as much as possible in one sentence, let alone one story, that we get all these commas and dependent clauses in our stories, and they just do not sound good on the air. And passive voice also comes naturally to us in writing. I'm doing a lot of inverting sentences every night when I'm going through our copy. I'm basically taking the end of the sentence and putting it at the beginning, and I'm trying to find the actor. The passive voice not only sounds bad, it's an editorial problem. It basically hides the subject, maybe lets somebody off the hook. Mistakes were made. Whose mistakes? So many reasons to do that. So I want to do even better when it comes to packed sentences. I find a lot of print background people tend to still write in the style of that lead graph. I saw one on AP last night on the broadcast wire. Here it is about Rosie Perez. Too much information. There's grammatically nothing wrong with this, and I'm sure Richard Hake could read it elegantly, but I don't want him to have to. That's part of my point of this presentation today is, let's get that much better and break it down and sound better and accessible to our listeners, delivering the same information. So below, I take a stab at it. I'm sure you could take a stab and chop it up even more or do it differently, but breaking it up, small sentences, doses, moment to moment. This is one that I found recently could be done better. I find that in trying to get as much information in as little time. Yeah, go ahead, George.
No, that's Rich.
Richard, yes.
Oh, no, it was Richard. I was going to jump in there and just say that, the easy way to fix that is just read the sentence aloud. Not on the air. As you're writing it, read it aloud. And if you have to, take a breath or do something there or you see a comma, most necessarily just start a new sentence.
I agree. Commas are my enemy. Well, they're my friend because I actually use them too much and they help me pause in my copy. But if you're writing a sentence with a lot of commas, it's a sign that you're packing it. Unpack it, put those periods in, decide what you don't need, and serve your listener that much better. I find that lists rarely sound good on the air, and when we can avoid them, great. A lot of hosts can read them well. They know how to vary their tone and speak elegantly, but I feel like it's better when you can talk. I feel like, who am I thinking of from Texas, the NPR reporter who's John, not John Stedman. Anyway, it'll come to me in a second. The reporter based in Austin does this all the time. Who's that?
Was it Wade Goodwin? I'm not sure. I don't want to get wrong.
Not Wade.
I'm getting lots of Wade Goodwins.
Wade Goodwin is a favorite of some people, and I'm thinking of
I think he has a Texan accent. He has a Texas accent.
John Burnett. John Burnett.
Yes, you got it, George.
No, Jackie Yuckerman and Michael Leland. Thank you.
Unveils, lovely scenes, lots of information, but I don't really hear him speaking in lists. I could picture him saying, punching just several moments. The murals detail scenes from Alice in Wonderland. They depict the zombie apocalypse, and they honor musicians. So I'm talking to somebody rather than just kind of spitting information at them. I think a lot of people know not to do this, but it comes naturally in our writing. And, you may feel like it can get a pass in broadcast copy. I feel like when we don't use these, we're that much more accessible and casual and on the air. I find there's ways around this, especially, however, but usually works just as well. And editorially, but is often not even necessary. If you have a good host, their tone of voice will give the contrast in the copy, just as you would if you were speaking to a friend. I always try to get meanwhile and meantime out. It's a standard. You'll always hear it on the air. But when we don't have it and we can do it with our tone of voice, I think we sound better.